Season 18 was set to shake up the meta by doing a huge perk overhaul, and they sure did. Not too many balance tweaks this season, but massive changes to all the heroes in the game. I'm going to go over who I think is the biggest winners and losers in all of the different hero subcategories, starting off with the Hitscan role. Cassidy has one of those really transformative style major perks that now gives him a new ability. With Silver Bullet, he will lose Fan the Hammer, so his tank bust damage goes down for sure. But what he gains is Silver Bullet, and it allows him to zoom in with his Peacekeeper and get a piercing shot that inflicts bleeding. Combat Roll and Deadeye resets its cooldown. This, I think, is one of the abilities that's going to catch you out the hardest, because you're used to Cassidy being very effective in medium to close range, but now all of a sudden his effective range is increased. With a slight zoom in on a ranged attack that's going to do bleed damage, his time to kill at medium and longer ranges is better than it was before. This is kind of the spirit of what they want the major perk to be typically, to give you some transformation to your gameplay. The only time I would suggest you don't take this is if you think Fan the Hammer is required to bust the enemy's tank, or there's a lot of close range threats coming at you, but even then, the skill shot of mastering Silver Bullet is going to go really far, and I think entirely shake up the Hitscan metagame altogether. And if you followed the game for a long time, you know that they've changed his effective range and his damage fall off on Peacekeeper many times. This is almost like one of those changes to me, because it gives you almost a sniper-esque level of burst, some bleed damage, so that he will be ahead in that Hitscan peak battle against a lot of targets. Sojourn is a big loser here in my opinion, because not only are her perks worse, but her base health goes down to 225. To compensate, the rate of fire on her spam fire as well as the cooldown on power slide gets improved slightly. And while I think most of the time you'll want to take the minor perk that improves her railgun during her ultimate, there is an alternate that you can take now, Deceleration Field, where enemies hit by Disruptor Shot are slowed by 25%. And this is a theme in Season 18 where they're taking a lot of the kit that used to be in Overwatch 2 or even Overwatch 1 and put it into perks. This is how Disruptor Shot used to work at the launch of the game. The major perk Adhesive Siphon that used to stick the Disruptor Shot to an enemy and it tracked around them, that was an amazing perk. I loved that one. That one's gone now, but instead there's a new major perk where while sliding, Power Slide generates up to 50 energy. So this is sort of the saving grace for Sojourn right here, because either as you go aggressive or are in a retreat running away with Power Slide, the longer you're sliding away, you're going to gain energy on your railgun, which is a required play to make now that you have lower health, easier to track down. Soldier's gonna have to be a lot more careful for taking quick bursts of damage, especially I'd say when she's expecting to receive a Mercy Pocket out in front. There's a lot of characters that now will more easily burst her even through that with the lower overall HP amount. Soldier gets a lot of reworks here, losing the minor perk that boosted his healing station to incredible levels on critical targets. That is a massive nerf for the character because that perk was insane. Now instead gets a new minor perk where Helix Rocket's cooldown is reduced by 80% during Tac Visor. I think both his minor perks are pretty meh now, but both his major perks are pretty insane. He retains the one that allows him to sprint faster and reload while sprinting. That's really good if you have to be on the go, but they majorly buffed his major perk, Stim Pack. It no longer damages you, which is good. It now changed that Stim Pack replaces Biotic Field and heals Soldier for 30 health per second and gains 20% increased attack speed for 5 seconds. So both his major perks are incredibly good. A DPS increase on one during heal station, that's going to be key. But if you're facing a lot of dive, then running away will be better, but I think most times you're going to want to pick Stim Pack now. Ash gets a minor perk where she can detonate her TNT after half a second delay. I love this perk because it's going to make her a lot more consistent in the very power-crept version of Overwatch 2 we're currently playing, making her biggest cooldown play a lot more responsive and reliable. But with all of the range hit scans put into view, I think Cassidy clearly wins the highest out of all of them, trading Fan the Hammer, a close range threat that he kind of didn't need anyway, for a long range threat, particularly going to be useful when everyone's getting their second tier major perk. Now, important changes to the tank category overall, because armor was bugged and they, quote, fixed it, but it has some fairly devastating effects. And then on top of that, the two heroes that were benefiting from the old bug also got nerfed. So armor works, quote, as intended now, so that blocking abilities on tanks don't stack beyond what they were intended to do on top of armor health. Then also significant nerfs to those heroes, Ramattra and Hazard. One of the bigger nerfs to me is that they changed Deep Leap from a major perk to a minor one, and it only does 15% distance. For whatever reason, that feels like that 5% distance really matters. While on one hand, he gets it online faster, which is nice. He has to choose between it and the lifesteal on his block. Keep in mind now with the armor and block mechanics being different, the block is just weaker overall. So even if you do invest in the block, you're not going to survive as much as you're used to. Health and damage on his jagged wall goes down as well, and he will no longer reload while using Spike Guard. They did give him a new major perk, but they nerfed his old one where Reconstitution now drains the additional resource before the base resource, which is important because you used to be able to manage it and sort of stock it away. But they gave him a new offensive one where Bone Spur hits mark targets with spikes, quick melee and violent leap / detonate them for 40 explosive damage. I think with the amount they've nerfed the rest of his kit and his early game, this new major perk, Explosive Impalements, might be good enough to start to have him carry later in the game, similar to how I feel about Mauga, but it's certainly going to be a big adjustment. Ramattra as well was beaten up and down with the nerf stick. So Ravenous Vortex, it no longer halts or interrupts horizontal momentum when the target is first affected. His bonus armor goes down overall from 300 to 250. The most important nerf is block ability now triggers a 1-second cooldown. This is super important because you used to be able to sneak in a single jab, one punch in Nemesis and then go back to blocking. Now you can't. You'll be stuck trying to punch twice before you can block. But more importantly, anything that interrupts Nemesis form, like for example, Wu Yang's ultimate does a Earth Shatter knockdown style effect, you won't be able to block for a full second after that. So most things that do knock you out of blocking, I feel you're in a matchup that you're probably going to instantly die. Perhaps good because Ramattra was a dominant tank, but the tank metagame has massively shifted now. Ramattra might be decent, but is going to take a lot more finesse in order to stay up on the front line. To compensate, they do give him a new minor perk. His improved barrier one is gone. It wasn't that popular anyway. Instead, now he gets Relentless Form. While in Nemesis form, eliminations extend the duration by 1 second and half of that during Annihilation. I will say that I can't really feel that it ever helps Nemesis form itself, but I might consider taking this perk just to extend Annihilation a little bit longer. However, his staff upgrade is so incredibly reliable that one's hard to bypass, but I'm starting to think that Relentless Form might be worth trying. Roadhog gets reverted to the old version of Hog. No more Pigpen whatsoever. He gets a ranged attack like he did in Overwatch 1, which has a lethal kill range if you hit a perfect burst to the head on a squishy. I want to make a separate video talking about Hog altogether. I think the benefits in the short term are that when you are engaging into him as a tank, you don't have 2 crowd controls to worry about. Also, his weapon is far more inconsistent in maybe a good way. The rework version that we just left was incredibly consistent and maybe too easy to use, whereas now your scrap gun kind of sucks, but the ranged attack is very effective, so more of the power is into that medium range, especially considering he's got a new perk that extends the range of the alternate fire by 50% and tightens its burst to 25%. So Hog is like a crazy sniper now. It's kind of silly in my opinion, but so was the Pent Up perk, and he gets a major perk where he gains overhealth based on how far you pull enemies with Chain Hook. I think Hog kind of sucks now, honestly, in comparison to the power level that he used to be. However, they still have time to balance this new rework version. You have to play him very brawly now, because you're not going to expect to get as many hook kills as you did before, or it's just a lot harder to get. So there's a lot of nothing happening, but the hook is such a reliable CC that maybe it's good at defending your team. And of course, there are Hog players that have mastered that alt fire to an extreme degree that they are incredibly lethal with it. I am not one of them. I was better at the trap version of Hog, but both are pretty toxic, not gonna lie. There's a theme here with the defensive tanks. Perk changes to improve their barriers for whatever reason. Ryan loses Crusader's Resolve and he gets a Barrier Recharge minor perk. Distance traveled while using charge regenerates your barrier field by 150 per second, particularly when you are backpedaling. I think that'll be important, allowing you to reestablish when the fights are getting skirmishy. And while he loses the Crushing Victory major perk, I liked that one. I thought it was a fun concept. His new one is way better. For each enemy you hit with Fire Strike, gain 2 seconds of 25% increased attack speed. So that can get pretty high if you hit multiple enemies at once. So Ryan goes giga nuts once he starts hitting things with Fire Strike in his major perk. He's certainly one of the biggest winners in the tank category, but there are a few. Sigma's change is kind of boring. New minor perk, half of your Hypersphere's damage restores your barrier's health. Winston has the most comical perk addition where he now will throw his barrier projector when used. I don't love this one, but I think it's one of those things that we might realize over time how to maximize. You toss it forward in front of you, which I think means in some instances you'll be able to protect yourself on an aerial dive, whereas normally you would have to drop the bubble at your feet when you land. The muscle memory of how this is supposed to be done is something that we've done for a decade almost. And so this new very, very small, almost comically small difference of how you cast the bubble. It doesn't seem like much on the surface, but the skill expression of this might unlock it later once we get used to it. Wrecking Ball is currently removed from the game, but probably due to a bug. His perk change here, Adaptive Barrier generates 1.4 seconds of barrier health on activation, consuming 50 overhealth. Haven't been able to play him, so I don't have strong opinions on Wrecking Ball. Doomfist importantly loses the Seismic Empowerment major perk, and it gets replaced with Aftershock, which applies that slow effect onto Seismic Slam, which existed when he first came out, sort of the concussed effect. But with Power Matrix being so popular, I assume that one will still get used, and it gets improved where damage absorbed during Power Matrix now provides equivalent Empowered Punch amount to Power Block. Now, you might think Doomfist would be a bit better due to Hog losing Pigpen, but honestly, Pigpen mattered a bit more getting one-shot kills on squishies. That's where I think you're going to notice losing Pigpen the most. If you hook Doom into your team, he's probably still going to fall regardless. So oddly enough, with the range boost to Hog and still pretty decent as an answer against Doom, you're not going to be roaming free up against the Roadhog anytime soon. Queen got a perk that lets her ultimate gain Unstoppable and refresh all of her cooldowns when using Rampage. This is a nuts perk, but when you think about it, it only benefits you if you're against something that's going to possibly stop you, and you could have outplayed it already. Certainly a really good perk, but perks are kind of insane nowadays. So I would rate it as good, not necessarily game-breaking. She loses the Deep Wounds major perk, but now gets Willy Willy. When recalling Jagged Blade, its radius is increased by 100% and deals 30 additional impact damage. Orisa gets 2 new minor perks. Defense Protocol is insane. Regenerate 100 health per second while charging Terra Surge. This one is nuts. Not only is she hard to take down with a channel of Fortify and then another one when she's casting the ultimate itself, she'll be healing during that. So that means she'll be able to be more lethal with the ability, not needing to drop it to run away quite as quickly as before. That is nuts. I think that's easily the best one, but she also gets mobile fortification. While Fortify is active, Orisa has no move speed reduction and no heat generation. This is a good perk as well, but I don't think it's necessary. And more times than not, I think you need a little help with your ultimate to turn it from something that maybe is a liability into a big play. Volga gets a simple change here, but I think is a winner in the patch overall. His 2 Hearts minor perk is removed. That's the one that allowed him to push the objective faster and get a small amount of self-heal while playing the objective. Now he gets Pyromaniac, where igniting enemies with Incendiary Chain Gun grants 50 overhealth. Importantly, it doesn't activate when you ignite them with the Overrun major perk. Now, normally with Mauga, you want to bear down on one target to continuously crit them and get overhealth as you do so. That still remains the same, but especially when you're playing up against enemies that are running away from you and not allowing you to farm them continuously, this perk will give you a burst of 50 overhealth each time you ignite a new target, which while won't secure kills for you, will make you very tanky and survivable in the front line, perhaps a little too much. And I've always felt that his Overrun major perk that gives an instant ignite and a much faster time to kill was the perk I always went for. His upgrade to his lifesteal aura makes a bit more sense to me since you're not playing for a hard engage with Overrun as much. And I think you would want to combo either both of perk 1 or perk 2 together and lean directly into either or playstyle. Diva is a major winner with a new major perk where you press reload and reduce the fusion cannon spread by 75% for 3 seconds. This is a power in Stadium and it is incredibly good in the competitive game. Heavy rockets does go away. This one is way better. Now it's a little awkward on a keyboard to press both reload and E, so I might rebind it for myself. I think Diva is one of the clearest, biggest winners of the entire patch with this perk change. But another one that might steal that spot is Zarya. She loses Graviton Crush, the major perk that improved her Graviton Surge, and now instead gets another amazing minor perk. Remember, the first one she has that mostly everyone used is the one that increases her self knockback, allowing her to rocket jump all over the map. Now she gets Energy Converter as well as a second option. Hits with Particle Cannon secondary fire generate 3 energy each, which doesn't sound like a lot, but considering you're not doing anything or needing to use a bubble to generate charge, and it's an AoE attack anyway, so it's going to hit multiple targets oftentimes. With this minor perk, you're able to maintain high energy on Zarya a lot more than before. I will say, losing the rocket jump ability makes you particularly weak, I'd say, in the ult fight, because once they start to hard engage on you, you're not really getting out. Your bubbles aren't enough to save you. You just have to pray that your supports are able to do something. But considering how much more lethal you'll be with maintaining higher charge and maybe not even needing to use a bubble to get lethal charge, this is one of the better minor perks in the game. Okay, so the biggest winners, I think Rein's major perk is insane. Orisa's ult upgrade, Zarya's charge is nuts, and keep in mind, armor is weaker now, and so are blocks. So Ramattra, Hazard, they're kind of off to the farm for now. Mauga feels amazing. And Diva, particularly because she has defense matrix to defend herself, which is like the last block that works. I mean, people don't consider it a block, but a lot of the tanks have a forward-facing anti-damage ability. We'll talk more about the tank meta in upcoming videos. Next, let's get through the DPS category. Genji gets some amazing perks. Acrobatics minor perk is removed. Good, didn't like it anyway, but instead now he gets a good option of Swift Cuts, where quick melee reduces the cooldown of Swift Strike by 3 seconds. All right, that's insane. Now keep in mind, his other minor perk gives him 30% lifesteal on Dragon Blade, which is insane, but the skill ceiling of Swift Cuts is even higher. So if you can get away without having lifesteal on your Dragon Blade, you're going to take over the game with this kind of minor perk. Getting something this transformative early in the game is incredible. Because remember, all you need is to confirm a kill with Swift Strike and you're gonna get another one anyway. So using it aggressively for the damage repositioning as a dual tool and sneaking in a melee anywhere means you're very likely to be able to all in and start chaining Swift Strikes over and over. Now, one of his more popular major perks is getting heavily nerfed, I'd say. Swift Strike deals 25 additional damage over time if the enemy is below half health. So a lot of cases, it's not going to enact, but overall, I'd say Genji is majorly buffed here. The intensity he can come at you in the early game is going to take you off guard, I think. Hanzo's perks make him a little bit more consistent. Swift Lunge now, arrow hits reduce the cooldown of lunge by 1 second based on the charge. Make it a little bit harder to dive Hanzo. Scatter arrows goes to the major perk slot. Now on first ricochet, storm arrows split into 5 shots, dealing 1/3 of the damage and bounce 1 extra time. I hate these things, honestly. I hate using them, I hate dying to them, but sometimes it can be a tank be gone. Junkrat gets some insane perks. He loses the ability to throw his trap farther, but gets a new one where killing blows with Conch Mine restores 1 charge. I never use the upgrade to Riptire anyway, so this one is incredible considering he also has a new major perk where launching with Conch Mine, Junkrat gains 35% increased attack speed for 3 seconds. So when you're going aggressive, bouncing around, shooting faster, and then use Conch in order to confirm a kill, you'll get another one which gives you more killing potential and more movement. So on maps where you don't need the long range trajectory for Junkrat, you can opt for the much higher gameplay cadence. Reaper loses the Death Shadow minor perk and instead gets a new one where Shadow Step's cast time and cooldown are 25% faster, but the range is reduced by 25%. At first, this looks a little bad, but on brawly control maps especially, being able to teleport right onto the back line and shoot faster than you're used to can be a devastating way to catch somebody out. It's hard for me to pick this one over picking up health globes, which can really help you carry later into the fight. But if you need an opener style ability, this other new perk, Shadow Blink, is even better. Sombra loses White Hat, so she can no longer heal her teammates by hacking them. Now gets Adept Hacker, where hacked health packs provide up to 50 overhealth to Sombra. So rather than being a good teammate, she'll now be an incredible duelist sitting on a health pack. Which, of course, remember, even the mini ones come back really fast. So she'll be pretty devastating fighting on top of her own health pack. But there's a lot of craziness going on when everyone has major perks anyway. And I think kind of similar to Soldier being insane with his heal station on the last version of the perks. This is another one where you just won't even try to fight her if she's got a health pack hacked and she's sitting on it. Tracer gets some really cool perks, but an important nerf to recall. It now goes up to 13 seconds. I feel like they keep changing this. She loses the Blast from the Past minor perk, but gains a new one, Kinetic Reload, where melee hits grant 20 ammo. So if you didn't hit the one clip melee, you've got extra ammo, about half of your entire magazine, to continuously shoot. That is pretty incredible. But with how fast and mobile the game is playing right now, it doesn't feel too insane for me, because if you're in melee range and continuously fighting there, you're really easy to hit after those hitbox changes. So if you didn't kill them with the melee, you better kill them in the next few bullets, or you're probably going down yourself anyway. Venture gets a new minor perk. Drill Dash distance is 50% longer while burrowed. That's a really big improvement, especially since Seismic Sense minor perk was kind of a gimmick. Smart Extender is a new major perk where you now can press E to increase the maximum projectile range by 100% for 4 seconds on your empowered Smart Excavator. Similar to Diva now, Venture can hit an extra button in order to be more effective at range. That is incredible for the hero. Major, major game changer for Venture. Bastion loses his rocket jump perk and now will get configuration reload, refresh the cooldown of the A36 Tacnade when changing configurations. I think that one's way more reliable. The rocket jump can catch you out every now and again, but it's not like Bastion wants to be doing that constantly. Whereas now just having an extra nade every time you're changing, that's a big burst of damage, big DPS increase essentially. Mobility on Bastion was fun, but not really reliable, and this is. Echo loses friendly imaging, so you can't select your own teammate with your ultimate anymore, but gains Focused Rush. Focusing Beam's range is increased by 4 meters and movement speed is increased by 10% when active. I mean, that is really good. Partial Scans minor perk, the duplicate starts with 50% of ult charge. That is incredibly good as well. Both minor perks are incredibly effective. A lot of choices to make there early in the game. The Full Salvo major perk, the damage reduction has been removed from all sticky bombs fired. Freyja got a whole bunch of changes, new minor perks. Direct hits with Take Aim reveal enemies to Freyja for 3 seconds. That's pretty nuts. I think that one's better than the Momentum Boost minor perk. Quick Dash distance is increased by 20%. I think your mobility's fine most of the time, so getting wall hacks on a thing you target will help you finish them off. The Ready to Hunt major perk has been removed in place for aerial recovery. Now, after using Updraft, heal for 30 health per second until Freyja touches the ground. Major perks are insane in this game, and this one's just okay. Mei loses Biting Cold and Permafrost. Both her minor perks are gone. Now gets Skating Rink. Allies within Blizzard gain 25% increased movement speed and heal for 50 health per second. And Glacial Propulsion, double jumping, creates a small ice pillar that launches Mei into the air. Both of these are fairly gimmicky. Blizzard was so darn good that any improvements to it, I feel, kind of don't do that much. Skating Rink allows you to use Blizzard as a defensive ult, so against hard engage characters like something coming in with Nano Boost, Genji or Winston for example, that sounds good, but either way, freezing them with Blizzard was going to work. Honestly, that perk is kind of just a gimmick, and then so is a movement ability, but that one's more reliable. Mei getting some verticality to her all of a sudden now is quite interesting, so you probably should always take that one just to increase your optionality. Pharah loses Concussion Implosion. That perk was fairly insane, making a mini grav on cooldown. She gets a replacement major perk. It's not as good, but almost. Concussive Blast reveals targets to Pharah for 3 seconds. During this, the next direct rocket hit deals 30% extra damage. So when you're finishing a target, And in a duel with them, having wall hacks and an increased damage if you direct them helps you go all in on them and confirm the kill. I'd say this major perk is more in line with the rest of the game, or kind of average, where Conch Implosion was incredible. Symmetra's Perfect Alignment minor perk used to be a major one. Now they downgraded it so that it just increases your primary fire's range by 20%, no longer scales with the beam charge. But gets a major perk, Hovering Barrier. Teleporter gains the option to create a forward moving barrier instead. Pressing E again slows down the barrier's movement. So this is the shield that they gave Symmetra in one of the many reworks in Overwatch 1. A lot of skill expression available to this, but I feel like if you haven't won the game by the time the major perks are coming online for Sim, you might be getting counterpicked already. Torbjorn gets a gimmick perk, Hammer Time. Move 20% faster while Forge Hammer is equipped, but most people didn't pick the one that upgraded the turret's health or let you repair it faster anyway. Widow loses focused aim and now gets scope shots charge 100% faster for 2 seconds after using grappling hook. That's an incredible minor perk. So your grapple shots are very effective now. I think it's because Widow's been banned so much on sniper maps that they're buffing and giga-juicing her perks so she can be played in other places. She gets a new major perk as well. Venom Mine now fires poison darts at enemies within 10 meters and remains active after triggered. So she gets a turret on her Venom Mine now. Yep. Onto the supports now. Wu Yang got some buffs in the Season 18 release patch, a bit improved from where he was at the playtest weekend. I'll make a separate video talking about Wu Yang. He's kind of nuts. Zen gets some stadium abilities into his perks. Zenith Kick is removed, but he gets, while using Transcendence, apply Discord Orb to all enemies within the range. This one's not as good as it sounds because you usually can't stay too deep on the enemy's side, but it does allow you to have some offensive skill sets in the ult fight. Sounds crazy, but I don't think it's that crazy in practice. Dual Harmony gain a second Harmony Orb, but they both heal only for 70% effectiveness. I like this perk, however, you certainly want to have a support that can heal your tank enough. Moira gets some massive perk improvements. Coalescence can be toggled between pure healing or pure damage with 25% greater effect. That's a minor perk, so often these minor perks come online around the same time you get your ultimate. So you can decide to pick that one or the new other minor perk, Ethical Nourishment. The instant healing is 30. It used to be 50 when this was set at a major perk. New major perk, you can now reactivate Biotic Orb to reverse its direction, or take Phantom Step, Fade lasts half a second longer and boost jumps height by 50%. So that sort of combined the old improvements to her Fade. So you either can make your mobility much better or your orbs much better. All of her perk options are really good, I think, and you could justify any of them based on the matchup you're in. Some of the supports just get some straight up power creep stats thrown at them. Biotic Reloader is a new minor perk where hitting an entire 3-round burst reloads a healing projectile, and healing projectile direct hits reload 3 primary fire ammo. So the better you aim, the more you can constantly shoot with BAP. That's nuts. It's gonna be really hard to choose the shoulder mounted automated healing minor perk compared to the Biotic Reloader, but each time you use an ability, it will fire 3 shots at allies, restoring 25 health each. That one also is very reliable, but if you have better aim, hard to deny not needing to reload. But I will say, in the cases where you don't need to reload, automated healing is strictly just more stats on top of everything. BAP's ammo capacity is kind of high, so auto reloading isn't as good as it sounds sometimes until you get really late into the fight, whereas automated healing will be more upfront value immediately as soon as you cast something. And maybe that's all you need to gain an advantage. Brig loses Barrier Restoration minor perk and now gets Combat Medic, where melee attacks reduce the cooldown of Repair Pack by half a second. Another APM spamming style stats monster. Quick Fix major perk is removed. That one was pretty insane, but now you get Inspiring Strike, where Shield Bash grants 30% increased move speed for 2 seconds, and Inspire's healing is instant when activated by Shield Bash. So remember, Inspire does a heal over time in an AoE, so if you Shield Bash someone, you get a burst of healing in an AoE. That is pretty incredible, and you get more move speed. That is a very, very good perk. Somehow even better than the Quick Fix one that they removed. Iliari loses Solar Power's major perk, but gains Solar Flare, where if you press your primary fire while using Solar Rifle, the healing beam will consume all the energy, healing allies in front of Iliari for up to 120 healing. Now, Iliari's heal beam is pretty nuts, heal per second, but if you need it all in a burst, you can do that. I don't know if you need this, but maybe it'll be matchup specific. Juno loses Reboots, the minor perk that hardly anyone used, and now Locked On, the cooldown reduction is 1 second, down from 1.5. Master Blaster major perk, the one that gave her crits, is gone, but now you get Liftoff, where the Martian overboots now can triple jump. I don't think you need that one at all, but now you also get the option of Faster Blaster. While Glide Boost is active, Medi Blaster fires continuously. That one's going to be tough to bypass. No downtime between bursts of shots? You're going to be able to heal a lot more or just deal damage constantly. That one's a radical change. Kuriko loses the Shuffling major perk, but in place gets Ready Step. Swift Step grants Kuriko 40% increased attack and reload speed for 2 seconds. And a change to Foxtrot, where Protection Suzu now only grants 30% increased movement speed for allies. It was 40, but it gets 100% increased cooldown recovery, just like it does in her ultimate. So while using your Protection Suzu on someone in your ultimate, I mean, I don't think there's any cap on cooldown recovery. So Kiri has 2 very competitive major perks. One makes her more lethal, one makes Suzu much better, and I would argue the function inside her ultimate better, as there's some cooldowns maybe you get like instantly now after you get Suzu'd. Lifeweaver's health goes down to 200, one of the more significant nerfs in the patch so far. Lifeweaving minor perk was a major, now it's a minor. Rejuvenating Dash now only adds 20 healing to the next Healing Blossom, down from 40. But now he gets a new major perk, Pedal Power. Allies gain 25% attack speed while standing on a raised pedal platform. That can be kind of incredible. There's lots of heroes that really benefit from firing from that vantage point. Cassidy already was one of the better combos for Lifeweaver, and he's a top pick with his major perk as well, so the combo of 2 of them starts to get kinda nutty. But he's much easier to kill now with a lower overall base health. Lucio loses base Blowout, the minor perk, and gets replaced with Soundwave Rider, where wall riding empowers your next Soundwave, increasing its knockback by 25% and damage by 50%. Kind of hard to use, but if you've got the skill to activate it, definitely something you're going to want to pick. Mercy loses Winged Reach and instead gets Divine Momentum, which increases Mercy's travel speed by 15% after canceling Guardian Angel. That one's pretty big. Ana, sort of similar to Pharah, I feel, gets downgraded in what she does. Ana's perks were insane. Her Nade upgrade minor perk is moved to a major, and now instead she'll get the opportunity to improve her Sleep Dart or get Speed Serum, where Nano Boost grants a 40% movement speed boost to both Ana and her target. I think improving your ultimate in a minor perk is important because you're usually making that decision at the same time. So you'll either improve your Sleep Dart, which is reliable but not always required. And I think more times than not, you're going to upgrade the ultimate, but it's nowhere near as good as the old major perk, which also gave her the ultimate as well. Strike is now gone, but instead the major perk Biotic Bounce gets upgraded from its minor perk status. It deals 60 damage and healing, where it used to just do 25. But I think just the fact that it bounces at all is sort of the major upgrade. And Ana's losing that from the first perk. So I think she's significantly weaker at that early stage of the game, basically. Having the multi-nade by the major perk slot, I mean, everybody's got crazy things by that point. That's more balanced, I would say, but definitely puts Ana down a tier and how devastating she used to be on a few fronts. Guys, that's the entire patch. I want to let you know that I want to get your replays. Whether you're looking for a VOD review, some coaching tips, or just cool things happening to you in Overwatch in Season 18 that you want to share with me, I want to review them and then make content out of them. I know I've been gone for a while, a lot of things in my life. Honestly, guys, I have PTSD, so that is a whole nother story. But I'm excited for the big changes to Overwatch, how good of a place the game's in. I want to make more content about it, so please send in your replay codes from the link in the description to the Google form. And to make sure that you don't miss out on upcoming videos, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified when my new videos come out. I've been Frito. Let me know your thoughts on Season 18 in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, leave it a like. That's been it for me. I'll see you guys next time.